welcome to the Joust. My name is Nagy. I'm here as always with my co-host Liam McNeil. Now, Liam, we were stuck in this sort of pattern of winning a game, losing a game, and then winning another one, then losing another one. Then we lost two, and then we thought, oh, have we broken the pattern? I think we have, because we just won two. Our whole season seems to be on this knife edge of success and ultimate failure, and we seem to be on the success side at the moment. Liam, are you going just as bad as crazy as I am?
Well, it doesn't seem like I've had as much crystal methamphetamine as you have today, but yes, I'm going almost as crazy as you, but not quite. I'd love at the start of the show, I know we generally address our listeners' concerns and whatever in the sack later on in the episode, but I'd like to launch in with one straight away at the request of Brock Henry Kemp. Fuck Manly. Thank you, Brock, for your suggestion. I think that's a wonderful way to start the show. And yeah, I'm feeling fantastic. I think we discussed it last week with Righty. There's just something special about beating Manly, especially in a close one. Yes. A nail biter, a finger nail tearer.
That's where the nails live, on the fingers.
They live on the fingers, and you just want to get them out of the fingers.
Well, there's a 2-point win against Manly last time we played them, and there's a 2-point win against Manly this time. Are we just toying with Manly, Liam?
Yes.
Do we have them on the end of a stick, and we just keep jabbing them and say,
we do.
And say, well, you think you're going to win, but you're not this week because we got you by another 2 points. But it seems like it was a game that, we should have won, and we got in this confidence, and then 12 points, we went to a 12-point deficit almost immediately, and then everyone started saying, now we're back here again. We're going to lose a game that we should win, but we won it. We did just enough.
Now, I got just a little rumbling of terror in my belly when they scored those first two tries, because my mind went straight back to the last time I saw Manly play the Knights at McDonald Jones. And I believe they scored twice in the first 10 minutes that time as well.
Yeah, and they clinched it by only 8 points or something like that.
A mere 8 points. Yeah. And all of a sudden I was having flashbacks, I was crawling under the chair to hide. I felt like there were fireworks going off everywhere. And it was very strange. The horror. It was not as bad as our Marlon Brando impersonation, but still, it was very stressful.
Apparently he rocked up to that shoot tremendously overweight.
Oh, he was. That's the reason they actually shot only his face.
Everything in the
So what
dark.
happened, he turned up to the set of Apocalypse Now, and he turned into a whale.
Yes.
So their whole thing was they just dress him in black, put him in a cave, and only light half of his face.
Yeah.
And he went on to become one of the most iconic performances in the history of film.
Yeah.
Just because he was large.
It's tremendously overweight. Now, a lot of people would only know Marlon Brando as a tremendously fat man, but he was so handsome in his young days.
Mate,
he was a fox.
What was he in Streetcar?
Streetcar Named Desire.
Yeah, what was his character?
I don't know, but he was the Stella. Yeah. Well, I think he was a drunk.
A drunk and a violent abuser.
Yes. Yeah, and Stella was the abusee.
Not that we're saying Marlon Brando is a drunk and a violent abuser. I'm sure he's not.
Part of the story.
He does own an island, though, in the Pacific.
Well, he did. He's now dead.
He did own an island in the Pacific.
Dead at 71. Marlon Brando.
Should have died years earlier.
And we digress, Liam, because our Marlon Brando podcast is a little bit later this evening, right after this one, where we shave our head and put on the appropriate amount of weight, which I've been preparing for the past 4 years.
We've been working on getting that role for a long time now, and I think we're finally in a position where we can take it. Yeah, we can make it our own.
We say we're enough being the handsome leading man. We want to be the weird fat bloke in the cave that's always sweating.
And you know what? He only showed half his face. Still got his full fee.
That's true.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, Jack Nicholson was paid $5 million for a 10-day shoot in A Few Good Men. A Few Good Men, is that right? Is that, yeah. You can't handle the truth. Yeah, 10-day shoot.
Right,
$500,000 a day.
That's insane.
Liam, I think we better jump to the news.
I can't talk about news. I'm too boggled by $500,000 a goddamn day.
You can't handle the truth. And it's time for the news. Liam, what's making news this week?
Oh, this is one of my favourite, Snag. It's one of the best things we've seen in quite some time. I think it's probably the best thing we've seen since the 2012 Grand Final. And I
think I said the 2012 invention of the sliced bread.
Yeah.
Sliced loaf.
It was very recent. I'm very glad that we did it. But, the thing about bread.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that interests me about bread, obviously we have bread from the dawn of time. You bake bread. You cook bread.
In a loaf.
And you slice the bread from the loaf.
Yeah.
But then at some point in history, someone's looked at a piece of bread and gone, I want to cook this again.
You got to cook it again,
I'm going to give it another cook.
Yeah.
And there we have toast.
Yeah.
I love toast. And it was really, it's a bit of an interesting little thing to think about. The thought process that someone came to as to how you make toast.
Well, when did they start making banana bread into toast? Because banana bread is cake. And someone
it's cake. It's not bread.
Someone at one point went, Whack that in the toaster. And let's see what we get. And it's delicious.
Put a cake in the toaster.
Put a cake in the toaster. Then butter it.
I think it's stoners that have come up with
It's
all this.
stoners. Stoners are leading the way.
100%,
As
because
most good food combinations
you're
are.
looking for munchies and you're like, that'd be good crunchy, wouldn't it?
The toaster is always open to the stoner.
Yeah. Have you guys ever done the thing where you put the toaster on the side, put a piece of cheese on the bread, and then put it in like that?
Doesn't it shut the toaster off in some toasters?
I don't know. I'll give
Like
it a go.
a safety
I'll
thing?
give it a go. I'll report back next week, Jousters. What were we talking about?
The news!
The news! Now, the first item in the news that I'm really excited to talk about because I think it was absolutely hilarious. Bad look for the game, whatever. Who gives a shit? It's very funny when a grown man bites another grown man on the arm, especially when it's in front of 17 high-definition cameras.
And also denies it. Now, that's an interesting defence of denying it because I believe it's more of the, what you would call the 5-year-old defence. He just bit me. Look at my arm. He just bit me. No, I didn't.
Well, the funniest thing was he didn't actually deny it initially. Sean Johnson, I think,
course,
went to the ref and he said, I've been bitten. And Kevin Proctor went up and just said, he was choking me. I couldn't breathe. If that's not a definition of
I had
guilt,
to bite him. Yeah.
I had to bite him. He's essentially gone up and said, I did bite him, but I was worried for my life. I was scared for my life.
Yeah, there was also, he said there was some issues about sinus issues and things like that. The first we've heard of them, by
Can't
the way.
breathe through his nose, apparently.
Famously, Kevin Proctor also snorting cocaine through his sinus-troubled, filled mucus nostrils.
The very same sinuses that he can't breathe through all of a sudden. Are you seeing a connection, Nagy?
What was he doing snorting? Where's it going? That's all I'm saying.
I don't know. I've never done drugs before. I don't know what you're talking about.
I've only had the meth on my breakfast this morning. It's the only drugs.
But anyway, it was hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. The funny thing that to come out of it, though, is Sean Johnson. He's come out in defence of Kevin. He said, we're great mates. We've been Kiwi teammates for years.
Yeah.
He didn't say that Kevin Proctor didn't bite him.
No, he said at the time I felt like I was bitten,
Yeah.
so I reacted appropriately.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if have you been bitten lately, Liam?
No, but I'll tell you what, when my last girlfriend broke up with me, I said, boy, it feels like my girlfriend's broken up with me because she had.
Yes.
So if you say, I feel like I've been bitten, probably because you have.
I don't know, because in the clip, you can't see, you can't see the bottom of the jaw.
No.
Now,
And
that's
so
a
if
good
I
point.
stick my arm, like if you got an open mouth and I stick my arm into it, it's going to look like you're biting me.
It does.
That's true.
We
That's
famously
quite-
had a former teammate of ours when we were playing back at Wanderers. He was accused of biting in a game,
Yes.
I believe it was against Merriweather. So obviously very heated competition. He went to the judiciary and they said, now, how do you plead on your charges of biting this bloke on the finger? And he said, mate, he put the bastard in my mouth. I'm going to bite it.
Yeah. Well,
And that was it. That was his defence.
your mouth is laden with teeth. You know, that's all it's got in there. So, you know, if something goes in there, of course, the chance of it hitting a tooth or two is going to be very, very high.
Oh, he was suspended for quite some time.
Well, that's all.
Long time.
I was quite surprised. We're in a game where I could reach my fist back and punch you in the face, and then that usually I might get a striking charge, and then I might see a few weeks on the sideline. But if you put something in my mouth and I simply bite down, or you push pressure on that, you've only got one row of teeth. The other one's covered by a mouth guard. Maybe 2 mouth guards could be an option. But if that apparently is 8 to 10 weeks on the sideline.
They're looking more. James Graham got 12, I believe.
Yeah.
For his bite on Billy Slater's ear.
I believe he bit his ear, though.
He did bite his ear, which is, I think he was just channeling
The Bulldog.
Tyson,
Mike Tyson, of course.
against Holyfield.
Yes. He bit him twice that
Two
fight.
times.
Yeah, 2 times.
Yeah, I'm amazed that Holyfield went back after the first time.
Yeah,
interesting.
And he really took a chunk out
Kevin
of it.
Proctor became the first person to be sent off for biting. Because, of course, Graham didn't get sent off in that grand final, and there was one other player who got a long ban for biting many years ago, whose name I forget.
No, I was going to say Ben Pomeroy. No, what was it? It was it was another
Ben
fellow.
Pomeroy was not well known for anything. Was he the Penguin? No, that was Ben Smith.
There was the Penguin Man.
Penguin Man.
No, of course that was Garth Delancey, the famous gold medal
winner in Moscow.
Moscow Olympics.
Yeah, Moscow
the
Olympics.
Swimmer.
Yeah, Penguin Man. Yeah.
Penguin Man.
Don't hear much about the Penguin Man anymore.
No.
Next item in the news. Let's keep going on this coaching merry-go-round. It's taken an intriguing new
Step.
I wouldn't say a stop because the merry-go-round doesn't stop. I was thinking of a bus, but the merry-go-round doesn't stop until the end of the ride. The ride's not over as Paul McGregor has been sacked as coach of the Dragons. Dragons fans have been calling this for years.
Yes.
Years and years, but they haven't been listened to.
No.
Their cries have been falling on deaf ears. Paul McGregor's been a shit coach and also been a worse coach. Why
Well, they've had
What the hell is going on that they kept re-signing him and now they get rid of him?
Well, it's interesting enough because it seems to be their pattern of re-signing was just let them drag the expectations down to a level which it was bottomed out where you think, well, we're definitely not going to win any of these games.
And then win 3 games in a row?
And then they re-sign him.
Bam, 5-year contract every time.
There was a bloke with some wet ink on a new contract, despite the fact that he resigned as soon as they beat Parramatta.
Yeah.
And he said, but wait, Mary, wait! So they said, no, just let it go. He's done.
Just let it go. It's done. So, yeah, that's another cab off the rank. You know, I looked at the numbers today. 1 quarter
Yes.
of NRL coaches have been fired this year.
1 quarter. That's 4 out of the 16.
4 of the 16.
And that's not including Anthony Seibold, is it?
No.
Because
that's a fait accompli.
Well, one more time with that.
A fait accompli.
That's, I'm assuming that's another language used.
Yes?
Yep.
Which one? I don't know.
True meaning of the expression?
No,
Just
no idea.
Don't know.
I think it means it's going to happen.
Yeah, no, I can. It's a certainty. Surely it's a certainty. It's waiting. It's on the precipice of happening.
Cusp.
But he
cusping.
He should have done. Mary McGregor should have taken the Anthony Seibold thing and just said, "I'm taking a leave of absence." Because you can't sack me if I'm not here.
Exactly. Oh, no. They've got text messages now.
Yeah, well, they have
Probably emails.
Have to invite them into the room to sack them, surely. A Zoom sacking.
Sacking and do.
Has anyone been sacked by Zoom?
Yeah, listeners, if you've been sacked by Zoom, give us a shout and we'll egg your former employer's place of business.
Yeah.
There we go. Actually, speaking of former employees' place of business and egging things, did you see the one about the Broncos fan who angrily threw his jersey on the front doorstep of the Brisbane Broncos office?
And I thought, geez, they're new to losing, aren't they? Because one season and they were taking off their jersey and throwing it off. Can you imagine if they suffered the 3 seasons from 2015 through 17 that we had, and there would be a pile of jerseys you couldn't get into the office. There
like
would have
a
been
classic Nordic funeral pyre. We'd be shooting an arrow at it to light it up and then getting it out on a barge in the Brisbane River.
They haven't been good at losing, have they, Liam?
No, they're not. And it's good to see it happen for once. You know, it's what you love to see.
The absolute capitulation of the Brisbane Broncos has been a sight to really watch because
it's been remarkable.
Because there was obviously the stop at the barber shop, which was a breach of contract. There's a host of injured players.
The funniest thing about TPJ's breach is that he faced the NRL integrity unit.
Yeah.
And he basically said to them, "This isn't the first time I've done the breach,
and it's not the last.
It won't be the last time." And I'll tell you, the Integrity Commission or Project Apollo, whatever you want to call it, did not look favourably upon that. I'll say that they didn't look favourably upon it.
Apparently, he's got some bikey mates that he probably thought, I'll tell you what, this isn't the first, and it won't be the last.
Isn't there a funny connection between NRL players and underground crime types? I remember Eddie Obeid when there was all this stuff going on. Kieran Foran was hanging out with Eddie Obeid for a long time. Was he a criminal or did he just own strip clubs?
I think, a bit of column A, a bit from column B, maybe.
Could be. Anyway, more on the Broncos and their capitulation. Of course, they had 10 players.
10 players.
10 players breached the protocols to go to a pub.
I tell you where you wouldn't be breached by going is the Commonwealth Hotel. And that's a fine venue that no one would ever dare you breach from because it's more of it's a feeling there. It's more of a sanctuary.
And they've got the best COVID safety measures in town.
Absolutely they do.
Absolutely.
They do. Stu and Catherine runs a very tight ship down there, but it's also a relaxed ship. A ship that you're sort of feeling like it's more of a lake.
They had I know Roy Slaven obviously is on the board of the NRL Project Apollo again, and of course, they've implemented Roy Slaven's system where at the front of the venue you have a bath filled with sanitizer, quick shower, into the sanitizer bath, back into the shower, then you can enter the venue. Obviously, it's a bit of a long, drawn-out process, but hey, it's Commonwealth Hotel. It's well worth it.
It's a wonderful system. We'll see you all there.
What else happened to the Broncos this week? Oh, yeah, the 10 players who got fined, $140,000 between them.
A host of injuries, no coach in sight. They seem to be running their own training sessions like it's under 14s again, and the coach hasn't rocked up and everyone's gone a bit silly. And that's just in the last 6 days, Liam. What the hell is happening to that club?
I don't know, but it's great to see. Great to see.
There was also a few other things. I heard that Anthony Seibold recently his car broke down on the side of the M1 up there in Brisbane, and you wouldn't believe it that his NRMA, his roadside assistance had run out the day before.
Oh no!
He chose not to renew it.
It's very easy.
And then he broke his engine light came on.
It's on a computer.
And the CEO, what was his name?
Paul
White. He went to start on the barbecue the other day, out of gas. That club cannot take a trick, Liam. It's just falling to pieces.
It's good to see.
Suncorp Stadium, full of asbestos. You wouldn't believe it. That was their main building material that they used, despite knowing that it's a little bit dangerous these days.
Well, again, Queensland are a few years behind, so I don't think they heard about the James Hardy situation.
No.
Last item in the news, second last. I've changed my mind, Nagy. Last item in the news, second last rather. The Melbourne Storm will be fined for fielding 14 players during their win over the Sydney Roosters. Now, let me set the scene for you, Jousters. Suliasi Vunivalu.
It's a cold, sultry evening.
Cold, sultry evening at the SCG. Suliasi Vunivalu, obviously, dear friend of the show, Cade McGregor-Hines' cousin, Suliasi is.
Yeah.
He's out on his left wing and he received a bonk to the scone.
Yes.
And obviously, when you get a bonk to the scone, you get your trainer. He comes over and he says, mate, you've been...
They have a chat.
You've been clonged on the melon. Get off the field. And so Suliasi's gone over the far touchline. Nico Hines comes on from the other side of the field to replace him.
Of course.
And then the Roosters made a break down the their right while Suliasi was on the sideline.
Yes.
And so he just stepped back into the field of play and joined the defensive line. And just,
Now, do you think that was instinct taking over, or do you think that was the bonk scone?
I think it was the bonk scone.
Yeah.
And I
or
think
the Bruce Melon.
Suliasi strikes me as the kind of player who is a very passionate Origin follower.
Yes.
As we all are as rugby league fans.
Absolutely.
And I think he was trying to channel one of the Morris brothers. I don't know which one.
Numerous
I
times.
can't tell the difference between them. But that great Origin moment where he's getting treated for a knee injury on the sideline.
Yeah.
And then
Then he
obviously came back on and chased down Greg Inglis, I think it was.
Yeah.
But I don't know which Morris brother is which.
I think it was Josh.
Yeah.
We'll call it Josh.
Call it Josh. And, this is a bit of a sad one. Good guy. Chris Lawrence has announced that he will retire at the end of the 2020 season. Just played his 250th for the West Tigers. Great schoolboy talent coming through. Played for Australia.
Yeah.
He's one of those really interesting players that played for Australia but never played Origin.
Yeah.
He can actually make a really decent side out of players that have played for Australia and never played Origin. Antonio Kafusi.
Joel
Played
Clinton.
for Australia.
Joel Clinton
Joel
played
Clinton?
in the 2003 Anzac
Shannon
Test,
Boyd.
yeah. Shannon Boyd also.
Also.
Maybe this side isn't so good.
No, I think the more I think about it, the less good it is. But hey, Chris Lawrence, very good at his peak, outran Billy Slater. But then he had I think he's got a bit of Labrador in him because it was all hips.
He was
His
all
brothers
hips.
were
He's corn on the hips, arthritic
Yeah.
hips. He could be part Labrador, as
Yeah.
anyone said, because he's not a fast man these days.
No, why? It's because of his hips.
Hips?
It's the hips.
It's the winter. It's the worst time to be playing as
the
an
worst time.
old Labrador.
As an old man bones, old man winter. But anyway, that's enough out of the news. Let's stop talking nonsense.
No.
Let's talk rugby league. Newcastle. Well, we were talking rugby league, but let's go back to it.
Quick.
Newcastle, Manly.
A quick shout out before we jump straight in. That's sort of a bit newsy. Something that we picked up.
Yes.
Something that we picked up on the socials, and that's a young fellow. I don't know if he's young, but he's definitely a fellow. It shows his collection. What's his name there?
I believe it's Jack Gray.
Jack Gray took our eye with his collection of Newcastle Knights jerseys, which will pop up on the screen for you there. And I tell you what, an extensive collection.
It's beautiful.
I've seen quite a few jerseysmans getting around over the years, and I've always been quite taken aback with the commitment they have. But I tell you what, there is such a collection there, and I was so impressed with it. Jack, we're going to send you an exclusive Just mug, so that we haven't given one away in years. So that
we haven't been a mug-focused podcast in a number of years.
In a number
we
of
put
years.
our focus away, but given the resurgence of the mug,
the mug's
we might
back.
have to mug on again.
I wasn't aware there were mugs and stuff.
Even our producer doesn't have a mug. That's how exclusive they are.
Here I'm sitting here drinking out of my hands.
Like a chimp.
Just sipping, just licking out of my hands. Like a Labrador.
Send us through your address if you'd like to give away that information, or maybe a PO box if you're more protective of your personal information, Jack, and we will send you over an exclusive Just mug.
Or give us your neighbour's house number. We'll put it in their letterbox
yeah.
for you to pick up at your leisure.
At your discretion.
They won't notice. Who uses the letterbox anymore?
I don't know. But also, if you feel like that you've got a better collection than the one that Jack has, or one that can compete with that sort of gravitas, also post it in the comments below, and we might send you a mug as well.
The most impressive one for me is that Newcastle Herald Challenge Cup jersey, obviously from the first night's trial match, which, funnily enough, also against Manly, who came up the F3 and got the shit kicked out of them, if we can be quite honest and quite open.
I think we can be.
And I heard a funny story, actually. I was listening to Barry Toohey's podcast the other day. I had Sam Stewart on.
Yeah.
And he was telling us...
Slammin' Sam.
Slammin' Sam.
Yeah.
And he said to Sam, mate, so he was a copper in New Zealand, and he came over to obviously play for Newcastle. And in classic rugby league style, the first job he got was the major sponsor, Henny Penny, as a truck driver. So, it's that classic, you go to play for the club and they give you a job with the sponsor.
Job with the boys,
You don't really do anything. And, so that classic, they give him a job as a glassy or behind the bar or something at a Leeds
Or
club.
in Dalton's case, a real estate agent.
Yeah. That's it. What happened to all those Knights players who were working for Dyler Dowling?
Well, Dowling, not Dalton. What was I thinking? Dalton. But it's the same.
Royal Dalton.
Royal Dalton.
The ceramics. We're thinking mugs. We're thinking ceramics.
That's right.
We've gone straight to the Royal Daltons.
But so Dial Downing. Is Downing still a thing? Is that still a...
Well, they had Jared Mullen as their spokesman for a while, so I don't think they're still around.
I know Robbie O was involved at one stage.
Robbie O was involved as well.
At one stage, it just seems to be like at every sort of Knights-ish ad, they'd have a Knights player dressed in a suit, standing outside saying... What was their slogan? Something. Dowling.
Dowling.
Yeah. And they're selling houses? Or
Selling houses, that's correct, yes.
They sort of were all dressed a little bit like undertakers. So maybe they're wheeling and dealing and other things.
They could well be, who knows? Got to have a side hustle. But anyway, let's go back to the game. Nagy.
Little on the side, speaking of side hustle, as all the major sponsors, are they on their way out currently? Was it a bit of a bad omen?
Now, we were discussing this earlier. So obviously we've got the Impulse Airlines, no longer with us.
No longer.
Flight Centre, on its last legs.
On its last
Penny.
flight.
Does anyone still eat there?
I don't know. BP?
BP,
Oh,
they're one oil spill away from, I don't know.
Stockland, do they still do shopping
They
centres?
do. It's a couple of good ones as well. Obviously, Jesmond, great shopping centre. Green Hills, another
Yeah.
beauty. Stockland do a good job.
Impulse Airlines.
No.
No, we don't still
I think that was
fly
the
there.
first one I said, Nagy.
Well, straight over the head. Tissues are falling over.
Tissues are falling over.
Look, I think it might have been the curse of the sponsor. Might have started with the Herald. If
I'll
only
tell you
they
what,
knew.
I don't want to be in the NIB offices when they listen to this episode.
Well, that's
They'll rip themselves right off the front of the jerseys.
Oh,
God.
Apparently, they're closing a lot of offices, like face-to-face offices.
Yeah, right.
But I think that's more of no one goes into a place to talk about insurance anymore.
It's just on the internet.
I know.
Again,
There's
the internet.
Internet or the telephone.
Also, if you have private health insurance, good for you, Bill Gates.
Camilla Parker Bowles. we all need knee reconstructions, all right, but we're just wait on the public list.
Speaking of knee reconstructions, rugby league.
Rugby
Newcastle
league.
Knights versus
Oh,
Manly
boy.
Spring Seagulls.
Now, Liam, we talked about... Sorry.
No, I was going to say now, Nagy, we briefly discussed this prior to the show. Obviously, we wanted to keep it organic, so we didn't go too deep into it. But Nagy, you told me your hats off, and I was interested. I was very surprised. It was very intriguing. Now, who have you gone for, Nagy?
There's lots of people that deserve a hats off, Liam. And one of those people, this has never been done before, is a hats off exclusive. I've actually picked a player from another team. I've actually picked a player from Manly. I was so goddamn impressed with Jake Trbojevic that it was hard not to give him a hats off.
Well, that's the thing. The Trbojevic brothers. Now, obviously, Manly are terrible, and we hate them, and we despise everything about them.
But in this podcast, we're big fans of Serbia.
Big fans of Serbia, as we've discussed. Like we said the other week, we think the Balkans are the next big expansion area. I think you get Serbia, Latvia, Estonia. There's some
All the
there's some
R's.
talent there.
All the R's.
And I'll tell you what, I've had a couple of our older players over Wanderers who take tours through the Balkans, and they reckon the rugby there is it's powerful.
Is that where Fridge is from? And Fridge's brother?
Yes,
Yeah.
Fridge and Fridge's brother, somewhere in the Balkans, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. There's your next.
Also, around this time, typically, the last couple of years, we've been winning New South Wales State of Origin series against Queensland, and Jake Trbojevic is always, a player instrumental. That's always, and that's what he was against the Newcastle Knights. And so it's not a play that he can just ignore. You see him there, but in every big tackle, he made it, and even in attack, he was very creative.
But it's just
for a
those
big
damn
man.
Trbojevic brothers. They're just likeable.
They're so charismatic.
Now, the thing that annoys me, though, about Jake Turbo is that he yells at the ref all the time, and people just say, he's just passionate. It's like, no, he's being a dick to the refs.
He's a bit of a dick.
He's a bit of a dick.
I will say that, no, but if there was a hats off that I was going to give in the same vein of that one, would have to be to Barney's back.
Barney is back.
Barney's back with the tramp stamp that I've missed so much to that first half of the season, and to see it flying around in the sunshine once again. Mitch Barnett, you get my hats off for this week of the Newcastle Knights. Liam, who's your hats off for this week?
Look, I'm going with Coach. Coach is in love with Anari. I'm in love with Anari.
Yeah.
I yelled it to him while he was on the sideline waiting for a kickoff. He did not look at me,
Yeah.
but I could feel the warmth rising in his heart. So, look, what we're going to do, we're going to start a bit of a campaign. Hashtag show Anari some love. So next time we're at the game, we just want as many fans bombarding him with just, I love you, Anari.
Yeah.
Like, if we could get all
Mm.
what's the capacity now? 5,500. If we can get 5,500 people.
Sure.
Like,
Just at separate times.
No, obviously all together.
All together.
In place of the Newcastle chant, maybe for a week, we just chant, I love you, Inari. But he was fantastic.
It's because he's been missing, because, we signed him to little fanfare. And when I think a lot of people said, who? Who is this fellow? And then
we were two of them.
And then he's come to this club, and then he's only seemed to have gotten better and done everything that we've asked him to. And he seems to weigh about 68 kilos.
Oh, he's a tiny boy.
He's a tiny fellow.
Even coach calls him a little boy. So in the press conference, he said, he's a good little fella or something like that.
But he plays well above his weight, well above probably what we're paying him. He's worth more.
Well, that's it.
So at the very least, we can show him some love.
He's just been going about his business quietly, in an unassuming fashion, and he's just been doing it wonderfully. 2 tries, 119 run meters, 33 post-contact meters, 5 tackle breaks, and a line break. So he was in everything.
Go-go gadget arm at the end.
Oh.
That seemed to extend 16 plus meters.
His arm is longer than his whole body.
Has anyone checked? Is he part machine? I don't know. It would answer a lot of questions.
I wonder, your arm span, is that how tall you are?
Sometimes.
I think Michael Phelps is no.
Swimmers are on another thing. I believe that Phelps and who was Thorpe. Phelps and Thorpe.
Thorpe, Harkin and Thorpe.
They're all
There's nothing in it.
They're all a little bit and boxers as well. They're a little bit strange with their reaches more than their height. But I think it's sort of like the classic wrist to elbow is about the same size as your foot.
No, it's not about. That's exactly it.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And
I think it has something to do with
and your thumb's about the same size as your other thumb.
Well, the original, now, if you go back through history, you'll see that the original measure for the inch was that of King James, I think. It was when you bend the finger, that is 1 inch. So, obviously, it's a stupid measuring system.
From the nose to the end of his hand was a yard.
A yard, and then I believe a mile was the distance that a soldier could walk in 1 day.
That was... No, surely you could walk more than a mile.
I don't know what a mile is. I don't know if a mile
1,600 meters, yeah.
Well,
stupid
that's
system.
a long way. That would take me a whole day to walk.
It's a stupid...
I'm not walking 16 Ks in half an hour. Jesus, now.
The imperial system.
But look, what went right?
A lot went wrong. Well, a lot went right after. A lot was asked of the team, Liam, because we discussed earlier, 12-0 down, and I think a lot of people, it's definitely online, were giving up, saying, we haven't shown up today. It's just like the Bulldogs. We can't win games that we're expected to win. How are we going to make the finals if we play like this? Or look, that sort of similar rhetoric flowing on like that, and we managed to turn it around and then take the lead in the first half, which I don't think's ever happened to the Newcastle Knights.
We used to often talk about, obviously under Brownie, the Knights would always let in that try just before half time. Not anymore. We're the ones scoring that try now.
That's right. We've flipped. We flipped the switch.
The script.
The script. Is it?
Don't ever go, because you flip the script, you're just looking at a blank page. That's it.
Yeah.
If you flip the script, the whole movie is your oyster. It's a blank. Oh, yeah.
Then you can put on lots of weight and just stand in a cave and have half of them film your face.
Get paid $500,000 a day.
You can't handle the truth.
You can't handle the cave.
There's a lot happened in that first half to the point at which we went from, this could be a complete ambush by Manly. And can I just also say, Blocker Roach really had a hard-on for Manly that entire game. It was very hard to listen to.
Did he really? I was at the game, so I didn't obviously get to listen to the commentary.
Blocker has historically been a little bit pro-Knights, and I think last week giving the Tigers a bit of a toweling up left a bit of a sour taste in his mouth. He's a
vindictive man, Blocker.
Well, he only played for one club.
He doesn't strike me as a vindictive man.
Never, one club never won a premiership.
Just lost one in spectacular fashion, though.
Could have won that one.
He
Blocker.
still hasn't forgiven the coach for hooking him and Ciro.
Yeah.
Still hasn't forgiven the coach.
Well, that's what happens when you've got plenty of regret in your life. So, Blocker, enough out of you.
Tight game, though.
It was a tight game towards the end, but I think one of the Sam Cupid also put forward the notorious fifth jouster. Put forward that.
Are we up to number 8 now?
I don't know. There's been lots of us. There's
lots of honorary
alumni.
jousters.
Yeah. Alumnus. Is it really?
It might be alumna.
It's
It's definitely not alumni.
Isn't it alumni?
No.
Alumni. It might be just alumni. Yep. Yes, that's correct.
But that's not the
plural. That's a plural, isn't it? As well.
Yeah. We'll sort this out in post.
Yeah, we'll take this all out. You won't see a thing of this. Sorry, but it was... no, I've lost where I was
Evenly
going.
matched game, 50% possession.
The feeling was that we were going to win anyway.
Both sides completed at 80%. It was hard to separate the two teams when you're looking at the numbers, but it just started way too slow.
I think on gravity of how much strapping tape was used, more so in Manly. It seemed like the fellow that scored the first try for them, Gack. Is that his name? What's his name?
Gack?
Cust. I knew it was something with strong consonants. Todd Gack, that's what I was thinking. So, Cust.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Take this all out in post.
Gack
Cust.
Please don't take this out of post.
One more time, what was his name? Cust. Gack Cust. He had firstly had such a bad knee that he was hobbling around on it coming out in the second half, but then he rolled his ankle of the good foot.
That's it. He didn't have a working leg, and he still managed to score a try where he kicked the ball in field from 4 meters.
No, that was
in the air outside. That was before the ankle.
That was before the knee and the ankle.
Oh God!
So then he did his knee, and then he came back on Todd Gack himself, and then did his ankle. It was a remarkable thing for a lot of Manly players to stay on the field. And of course, a former knight, Brendan Elliott, did his ACL.
He did.
Won't be playing again.
I always liked him when he was at the Knights.
Brendan
gave his all. He was very much an effort player, a bit of a bit part played, filling wherever he was needed.
Yeah.
But you got the feeling he always gave his all.
He's been a bit
all just wasn't great.
He's been a bit of a bridesmaid to Tom Trbojevic, but Trbojevic has been out of so many weddings now that it seems that Brendan Elliott keeps getting married. But he's a bit of
like you and your MCing.
It's like
always the MC, never the groom.
That old saying.
That oldest saying in the book.
It's like he seems like to be Trbojevic's understudy. That seems to be what happens.
Yeah.
But he gets so much, screen time because Trbojevic is always out.
Yeah.
And now I don't know who that. I think he's coming back next week. Trbojevic. Manly could still make a run.
Next week, I believe. Yeah.
Manly can still make a run with the two Trbojevic brothers playing, but anything can happen.
It. As long as you got the Turbos and Dares. You've got a Manly side who can do some damage, as they showed against Parramatta.
A little bit of concern again watching that game on the rewatch. Slim is this: we let them back in after taking control again. We let them back in. They had to fight back twice, which I don't think we've ever done. So was it you were at the game? Did you feel like we were in control, or did you feel like Manly came back there?
It just felt like an arm wrestle. There was just obviously the lead was seesawing, everything was changing. No one knew what was happening. It was a tough game to watch.
Yeah.
It was one of those games where I think, what was the last try? 5 minutes to go?
Nari Tawali, with 5 minutes to go.
Yeah, it was one of those games where I was on the edge of my seat the whole time, and I was stressing, and I was stressed drinking, and I was eating.
Can I say also that we went over twice just before that, which would have also retaken the lead. So we felt like we went over 3 times because there was a forward pass, and then there was a drop ball by Saratoa as well.
Dodgy. That forward pass called about it.
Well, I was surprised to see the forward pass called by the touchy that couldn't see when there was an entire leg out of the field.
Touch. I know.
And there was really the two sort of responsibilities as a touch judge is one is the forward passes, but two, if anyone puts any limbs outside of the field, you got to put that flag up.
I'd argue that's the first part of the job.
That might have been the more important one of the two.
They don't need the flag.
I feel like maybe that he didn't call the first one and he thought, let's maybe
better make up for it.
Better make up for it to say I'm
manage
really
us
on
back
the ball.
into the game, as Ivan Cleary would say. Now, look, Kelly Wilson has sent us something that we need to address, and I think I'm glad that we're.
Should we open the sack?
No, this is Kingy. Let's talk Josh King. If we're talking about the weekend's game and the games leading up to it, we got to talk Josh King. That boy has improved out of sight.
Yeah, he did. He came out and did a job.
He did a job, and he did the job well. He seems like he's running harder, and he's hitting harder, and he's just doing everything better.
I think so. I think he's. Yeah. I think look, this is his final year of his contract. I wouldn't be upset to see him come back again because every year we seem to lose a few props through this season, and he comes in and does a job, and I respect that.
Absolutely, and hugely improved this year. Wonderful. Absolutely great. You love to see it. But just as now...
Before we open the sack, Liam, we must look forwards, not backwards. Backwards, not forwards. Twirling, always twirling.
One more note on the weekend's game.
Please.
Just as I love going to watch rugby league live, I'm sure you all do. It's a wonderful... It's one of the great pleasures in life to see two groups of 17 blokes just belting each other while you're sitting there knocking back a few stubbies, thinking you could do a better job than they do, as I often do.
Yeah.
But look, I've been going to footy for a long time.
You have.
And let's discuss the get 'em on side yelling.
Yes.
Now, it's 2020. The get 'em on side yelling probably started at the first ever game of rugby league in 1908.
Yep.
Maybe it's time that we just give it a break for a bit, you know? Because obviously, you know, you get... When you sit there in the crowd, every defensive set, you hear get 'em on side 40 times, even though there's only 6 tackles.
Are you saying that possibly the ref will get them on side without the prompting?
I would hope so.
Yeah.
I know, obviously, the prompting's quite important.
Yeah.
Quite important, but...
We've got the three. We've got the get them on side. What happens to the ref sides? They're painted on.
And who's the ref getting paid by?
I don't get paid by if ever have a good hour. Yeah, that's typically how it's described.
So while I wouldn't advocate that we rule it out entirely, obviously there's a time and a place for such things, but let's just give it a break.
Sure.
And see, you know, how we can enjoy the footy without constantly pinning things on the ref.
Look,
instead of pinning things on the ref, let's cheer for the team.
Look, things I'm for. Cheering. Cheering's nice.
Love it.
Yeah. Booing. I'm for booing.
Booing's fine.
Let's boo.
Booing's fine.
Newcastle chant.
Newcastle chant.
Wonderful.
Absolutely brilliant. Would not be the same without it.
Those three, and less of the get them on side, your eyes are painted on, money. So a little bit of something for you
So
guys.
I reckon let's just give it a break and cheer positively for a couple of weeks. And we'll just see how we go.
See how we go.
So, yeah, we'll see how we go. But that's the last thing I wanted to mention on that game. But as you said, next week... next week's dangerous.
Interesting fact. The Cowboys has not won a game since the last time they beat us in round 7.
Oh, that's not interesting. That stinks. God damn it.
No, can I say that? They have not won a game. So they will be coming in with plenty of confidence. We've lost Daniel Safidi in the game against Burnley. Just another injury.
I think Coach said he should be right very soon. It won't be a long time. No, it won't be long.
But, you know, it's just another injury after, you know, since the NRL physio put out a thing saying that the Knights have had the most 5+ week injuries of any club.
I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to discuss this with you. Isn't that...
It's not remarkable.
Is it worrying? I don't know.
But we've had a lot, but everyone's had a lot now.
Yeah.
So it seems like everyone might have caught up, especially in the last few rounds. But it's those key players that, Hooker has just copped an absolute flogging from us. Anyone wearing the 9s, rightly so, has just been, absolutely copping it as far as their career.
Beat hookers.
I don't know. It's the same person that's paying the ref.
Absolutely.
So that's, I think as far as injuries, it's going to be interesting to see. However, Cowboys are coming in thinking we beat these guys last time, we can do it again. But we're a completely different side. I feel like we've got a few more wins there. Some important wins against Souths and against the Manly and against Manly twice, maybe.
And it feels like we're building to something, which hasn't been the case in the past. Obviously it's been choppy and changey and, win, loss, loss, blah, blah, blah. But we're in 6th.
At the same time, the Rabbits should have lost that game against the Cowboys. Cowboys did enough, scoring 30 points, and they only lost it in the final minutes. They threw the game away, and probably because they've just in this losing culture. Can we all remember what it was like to lose 10 games in a row? It's happened to us before.
I wouldn't wish it upon... Well, I would wish upon my worst
enemy,
and Broncos fans.
And the Broncos
And actually,
fans.
there's a lot of people I'd wish that upon, so...
And some of your worst enemies are Broncos fans.
Yeah, absolutely.
Timothy Raytana for one of them. Now, so it's interesting to see, like, moving forward, just before, you type into your phone or you type into your keyboard and say the Knights just don't know how to win, just remember that we didn't lose 10 games in a row like the side that we're playing. But they're very capable side. They're on the up. They've got some good players like Kyle Felt and Michael Morgan. He's got a brain of a child, but he's...
I would argue that Kyle Felt lost them the game.
Yes, well, he did, but he's done other good things.
Goal kicking.
He's done good things leading up.
Yeah.
Michael Morgan being the real, the keystone in that. If anyone doesn't know, the keystone is the one you put at the top of the arch.
It's the top, and it supports the arch.
Supports the arch, yeah. So he's the arch support of that team, and he could tear it to pieces. Very talented player.
Very strong.
Yeah.
They call him Mongstrom.
Okay.
And
Well,
I don't condone that, because that is not a word we should be using.
But this is what they use up in North Queensland.
It is. Obviously less progressive up there, a few years behind. So
Yeah, still using asbestos.
Yeah.
Still
we're not pro that here.
Still
at the
building
Joust.
stadiums. They had their stadium called 1300 Smiles Stadium.
What a stupid name.
I don't care if they're offering the most money. Why would you call your stadium that? I don't know. They got a new stadium now, so that's what we
Queensland Country Bank Stadium.
Yeah.
Sounds just as bad.
Just as bad, really.
Who wants to be in Queensland country?
I don't know. So they're looking at
Rural
how they can
Queensland.
salvage and not end up on the bottom of the ladder. We're looking at how we can finish in the top four. Cowboys is a huge hurdle. We got these games to think we could be in that top four position, but we have to win these type of games. It will be 3 wins in a row, something that we haven't done in quite a while, probably since last season when we had that 6 game.
Had that 6-game run.
Yeah, but that was
yes.
more of a fever dream. We didn't know what we were doing.
A flash in the pan.
That was just, it was chaotic, we sort of woke up after that and thought, what happened? We came off
years of our life had disappeared.
6 losses and then 6 wins.
Yeah.
It was sort of like how you had to be kicked in
It
the
was
face.
like in that 6 wins through, we grew, we experienced our first love, we had our first child,
and then they both left.
When they left, they just stormed
I
out.
got on a bus. We lived like the life of Forrest Gump,
Yeah.
You thought everything was working out fine, and then before you know, you're in the Vietnam War and
You know
Bubba's
what?
dead.
Jenny, in Forrest Gump,
Wasn't she a
talk
bitch?
about the audacity of that woman. Forrest has gone to her, when he was poor and broke. Oh, I love you, Jenny.
Yeah.
It was fuck off,
Yeah,
Jenny says.
Again.
Again.
Again,
And
yeah.
then rebuffs again, and then rebuffs again. Now, when she doesn't rebuff, when he's rich and famous.
Yes. That's
I don't know about you, but I don't like this Jess.
Jenny.
Jenny. I don't even want to use her real name.
But then she also introduces his child and says, this is your child. His name's Forrest, just like his daddy. But you think, if he raised to the age of 3, why didn't you give him a call before then?
Just holler.
Just give him a call. Say, I'm raising your child. I know you're not doing much over there.
Just give us a hand.
Before, yeah.
That whole storyline's a little bit suspect.
It's a little bit suspect. The
Sneaks
man's
in.
a war hero.
Sneaks into a mentally challenged bloke's room and just does it and then fucks off.
Oh, I forgot about that bit.
yeah.
That movie.
Reverse the genders and see how it makes you feel.
Yeah. Would that movie be cancelled
Soon.
now? Soon? Yeah.
Are we going to be cancelled?
Hey, they haven't cancelled us yet.
Soon.
We're like cockroaches. We're the cockroaches of the podcasting world. It'll take more than that to get us off the air, Packer. Or is Rudolph?
Rupert?
Are we Rupert? Who are we with now? I don't know. What the hell? Are we talking footy or not?
I've forgotten where we're up to. Time to have that sack, Liam.
Sack time. Let's roll. Mitch Gwynn, dear friend of the show. Mitch, thank you for sending this question 14 times across different formats. But Mitch asks, can Kurt Mann consistently perform at dummy half? He played 73 minutes this weekend, but the workload is a worry.
It is. It is a worry. I'm a little bit concerned about his well-being. He's not the biggest man in the world, not the best, middle tackler. He grabbed his sternum. He got run over by that Manly prop.
Teniel Paseka.
Yeah, like Kurt Mann's tenacious. Don't get me wrong. He's tenacious man, but but at the same time, he doesn't have that typical stocky hooker build that can just tackle all day. He seems to be something more of a lean boy.
Wiry.
Yeah, he's a
lean, wiry fella.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see. I'd hate to see him get a career-ending injury because it feels like if he's ever going to play Queensland Origin, it's going to be this
year. He's the 14 for sure, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
And Newcastle has always been good when we've had the odd Queenslander sprinkled in.
Peppered in.
Yeah.
So we hope so that he's going to be still around at the end of the season.
He did a great job though, and
he's done a great job no matter where we put him this year.
I think what a lot of people don't realise, and that coach himself said, was Kurt made the call. Kurt went to him when
and said
who went down?
Yeah,
which hooker went down? A millionth hooker.
God knows.
But
both of them, McCulloch,
all four of them,
and
but
Watson.
It was Kurt himself who went to coach and said, "Coach,
have we all forgotten?
I'm ready. Put me in."
It's crazy to forget that we also signed another hooker this year. Like it was going to be out the marquee hooker of Jaden Brayley,
and then we signed a second marquee hooker in Andrew McCulloch.
Yeah, and then we signed
a third marquee hooker in Connor Watson.
Yeah. And now we've got Kurt Mann there, Mr. Fix-It.
Doing a job too, but I think if you can keep his minutes down by exchanging him, or what do they call it?
Interchanging
him with Phoenix Crossland.
I think bring Phoenix on early. I think it's the only way. That's probably a great answer to your question.
I'd give Phoenix 20-25.
Yeah.
I think he's only going to be about 10 or 15.
Yeah.
I'd give him 25 because he's a live wire.
Well, yeah, and then he can keep Kurt Mann on if he wants to be on, and then it's going to be interesting. So use Phoenix Crossland more, or even a little bit of Tex Hoy. Let's bring a little bit of Tex in there.
A bit of Tex. Next question. Shannon Pinkowski. Shannon asks, with a lot of talent coming through and Watson having a bad run of injuries, do you guys reckon he'll cop a new contract? If he's forced to leave, do you think it will affect Ponga? You know what? I'd get him again. I'd give him more time. I think he's worth it.
I think it's interesting. Look, it's interesting. A Knights team of old would re-sign him in a second, but we've been guilty of re-signing players that are constantly injured. I don't know if we're going to re-sign him on the money that he wants.
No, not on that money.
Money, that filthy money.
It's all about money.
After the injury happened, he did say in a press conference that like he had spoken to the coach and stuff about it, and they seemed to all be in the same mind. Like their frame of mind hadn't changed in that they're keen to keep him around.
That suits me just fine.
I think he's got plenty of footy left in him, and he seems to have.
He's only 22?
20. He's either 22 or 30. That's all the only players are. They're either 22 years old or 30 years old.
Or they're Alex Johnson. He's the only 25-year-old in the comp.
He should be 30.
Everyone else is 30 or 22. I thought he was like 30.
Adam Reynolds.
He's been around forever.
30. Alex Johnson, we just said he's 25. But then
Cody Walker,
30.
Jordan Rapana,
30.
I'm older than these blokes. And they're like 400-year NRL veterans.
Daly Cherry Evans, 30. Doesn't look like, doesn't he? Just keeps.
Who else are we talking about who's probably 30?
I don't know. I tell you what, Daly Cherry Evans seems to always score a try against us as well.
He does.
We're not condoning betting, but put money on him because he always scores.
Put the house on him. Forget money.
Not against. But
just walk into the tab with with your concrete
entire
house going in there,
full of asbestos.
Yep.
And just put it on Daly Cherry Evans to score against the Newcastle Knights.
Now, Glenn Urain, I like this one because this is a very, very good conceptual question. I love this question. Yeah. Glenn asks, now bear with us.
You've done great on the question because Liam's already in love with it. Yeah.
This is a good one, but bear with us. Now, do you think, obviously you, meaning Nagy and I,
yes.
We play up the whole ye-old Knights theme enough? What he means by this is post-COVID, would we like to see more work put into Knights mascots like Rusty, a return of the Knight on the horse to home games, fake jousting, fans running a gauntlet of sorts, classic crusade type music, a castle facade the players run through when coming out of the tunnel, etc. He likes what the Canberra have done with the Viking clap, as do I, and the horn. I love it. I think it's fantastic.
Well,
it's the theatre
more on the horn
that Glenn Urain's young boys love when we go to a home game. And as listeners would know, I'm a huge fan of the theatre, musical theatre especially. So the more pomp and ceremony and theatrical just outpouring of creativity we can get at the footy, the better.
What's it called, those festivals that they have that are always
Renaissance fairs?
Renaissance fairs,
You know what? Let's just turn every Knights game into a weekend-long Renaissance fair. We can joust, we can drink mead,
the village
we can
idiots.
have our way with wedges. Don't talk about me like that, Nagy. I'm right here. Did I say the village wedges?
You said to have your way with wedges, and I hope that's what you meant.
I had wedges for dinner last night. I meant the village wenches.
Wenches, which you want to have your way with. Wow.
Yeah, I think it's a grand idea.
I think it's fantastic. I think we've been fake jousting for years, so we could be there as well.
I was going to say, you could have it as a whole show. Like, you remember they had the man from Snowy River, your theatrical experience at the Easter show? Obviously, you'd have those guys come in, but they're all wearing armour instead of their, R.M. Williams and their cowboy hats.
Yeah, Pig on the Spit, maybe. They used to do that, surely.
Pig on the Spit you'd have. So we've got the man from Snowy River guys riding horses in armour. Get your Pig on the Spit. Instead of serving mid-strength beers and expensive shitty mid-strength.
Someone in those lock sort of boxes where you stick your head in your arm. The stocks.
Yeah,
you have someone in the
stocks.
stocks.
That's another good one.
Someone as you walk past is going, help!
I'll tell you what would be a good get. I don't know if you keep in contact with any of the contestants on Gladiator.
Always.
But, I was hoping so.
Vulcan especially.
Especially Vulcan.
Would not stop calling.
We could hire those guys and they could have real jousting.
Yes.
So obviously if it was fan-centered, you'd have to have fake jousting. It's very dangerous.
Yeah.
But they could do real jousting. But to approach, obviously Glenn says that it's his kids that love this ceremony. You want to appeal to the kids. So instead of jousting on a horse, let's say, I don't know, just on a motorbike.
Yep.
And instead of using a lance, you could
I
use...
tell you what, maybe instead of the horse, we could just borrow some of those. They got the trots just next door.
They do.
So you can have like more of
chariot
a
racing.
chariot racing, but maybe with a stick as well.
Let's turn every game into an ancient Greek just
We go back further.
orgy of drinking and violence and I don't know, slave trading and oh my god, whatever they used to do in ancient Greece. So yeah, Glenn, we love your idea, but we're going back further.
We're going back. We're
Past
taking it
the
another
Crusades.
step.
Going back past the Teutonic Knights. We're going all the way back to ancient Greece.
Enjoy this last episode of the Joust, guys. We're getting cancelled. But Liam, another question from the sack.
Another question. Ooh, now, who am I going to take for the next question?
Not long, Liam. We're going to squeeze out 2 more questions from the
Seamus
sack.
Kelly, when will the Western Grandstand be named the Kalen Ponga Stand? Now, I like Seamus's intent here.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea, but I think there could be better ideas.
Yes.
Obviously, a grandstand named after you is doesn't truly reflect the greatness of the man, like with obviously Carlo and his stature for Andrew Johns. Players like this, they need more than a grandstand named after. Every dick and his dog who's played in the NRL has a grandstand named after.
Sure.
I've got a grandstand named after him. You've got a grandstand named after you.
Soldiers Point subordinates, of course. Yeah, it's only 16 seats.
Yeah.
But it's still named after
Yeah,
me.
we'll see. Sawtail Panthers, we didn't have seats, so it wasn't really a grandstand.
Benches.
So much as I had my name taped on the dugout, so that was about it. So yeah, look, Seamus, I like where you're going with maybe a grandstand, but I think we go bigger.
Yeah.
We look
Whole stadium.
Whole stadium.
Yeah.
Kalen Ponga Stadium.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. It's fantastic. Thank you, Seamus Kelly. Ryan Kentish, now we've obviously waxed lyrical about... no, actually, Ryan, we have discussed Kurt Mann, and yes, he will be Player of the Year, and we'll save the hassle at the end of season awards, because we'll just give it to him now.
Yeah.
Yep, agreed, Ryan. I think it's unanimous, Nagy. Yes? Yep, agreed. Yeah. Grant Morgan, next question, and this is something we were discussing briefly prior to the show.
Sure.
Grant says, listening to Sports Ears, the referee's communication this week was terrible compared to last week. As top shelf communicators yourself, what advice do you have for Ashley Klein to improve his performances? Now... I've got a little bit of advice.
Sorry, it was your reception that was mucking up. It wasn't Liam's voice.
You got to fix the bunny ears on top of the computer. Now, what advice do we have for Ashley Klein to improve his performance?
Shave it off. Get rid of it. Because we can all tell, and probably so can your family, but they haven't mentioned anything to you yet.
Well, I was going to say maybe Ashley needs to start listening to the crowd.
Right.
Because obviously, the crowd chimes in. They say when there's been a bad call.
Yeah.
Maybe Ashley does need to start listening to
Get him on side.
Get them on side. They'd all be on side.
Has anyone checked Ashley Klein's eyes? Are they in fact painted on?
Is he being paid by the opposition team? We don't know.
Are they being paid by
Something Specsavers.
Something Specsavers.
I'll tell you what.
You bastard.
The worst thing to happen to rugby league was when Specsavers decided they say, look, let's sponsor the referees, the people who are well known for having to have a very, very close eye on things and need to be able to see well. And if they miss things, they're fucked.
Yes, yeah.
Specsavers was not a good decision in hindsight.
Private health insurance for a team that keeps getting injuries, on the other hand, much better.
Perfect. That's much better. I think Lockie Fitzgibbon's dad, Mark, will be...
Peter?
Peter?
Peter? Is it Peter?
Why do you call him Uncle Dad?
Uncle, he's sort of the father of all of us, the CEO of NRB. Lockie Fitz had a great game as well. Do you have any more questions in the sack, Liam?
Close it out, Maggie. I'm toasted. I'm toasted.
What have we done? Have we got enough airflow in this room? Thank you for sticking around with us. Gee, that was a ride. This is what 2 wins done to us. Hopefully we'll see you after 3 wins. But if you like us, please like us on all the things. Every single one of them.
And give a call to Gack Cust if you
Gack
can.
Cust. YouTube, SoundCloud, Facebook, Spotify, Instagram, Twitter. I think I nailed them all.
Yeah. You nailed it, Nag.
I nailed
it. Well done.
I'm going to nail one thing tonight.
Well done.
And that's going to be that. And that's all. We'll see you next week, Justice. Thanks very much for sticking with us.